Greetings, fellow Taoists. Deathblade here, another Deathblade podcast. At the end of last month, I had a drop in patrons, which happens at the end of every month. However, that dropped it below 2,000, and I still had the goal on my main page of trying to reach 2,000 patrons. And I said that when I reached 2,000, I would have Baby Deathblade on the podcast. So, of course, I passed 2,000 this week, and originally planned to have Baby Deathblade here, but he's been sick the past couple days, and right now he's conked out taking a nap, and he really needs some rest. So, and this is pretty much the only slot I have at the moment to do a recording. I'll try to have him on next week, I hope. What I'm going to talk about today is actually the same subject as the podcast I recorded a couple weeks ago and then messed it up and had to scrap it and never re-recorded it. So this is a re-recording for me, at least. None of you have heard it so far. I'm going to talk about my schedule, my translation schedule. This was a request for content that somebody made. Maybe a little bit boring, but I actually think if you have a couple minutes to listen, it would probably help you to understand a little bit better about how much work goes into the translation, at least for me. So I'm going to describe very quickly my ideal schedule. So this is like the perfect week. How in my mind, if every week could go like this, it would be great. Essentially, starting on Monday, usually I wake up at around 8 or 8:30 or so and, eat breakfast, take a shower or whatever, and come to the computer, check emails, check Facebook, check Twitter, and then I edit the chapter for Wuxia World and post it. Usually by the time all of that happens, it's around 10:30. Maybe 10:30, I'll start working on translating. And now, of course, Mondays are different than the rest of the week because on Monday right now I work on A Will Eternal, and that's a little bit harder right now because I haven't read ahead in the book. The writing is a little bit better or more complicated. And so usually what happens on Mondays is I'll start translating at around 10:30 or so, and I'll finish the first chapter of the day by around lunchtime. Then I'll go in and have lunch with the family, come back by around 12:30 or 1, and then continue translating. And usually I'll reach the end of my translation day at around 4. Of course, this is the ideal day, 4:30 or so. And that means that I have maybe an hour or so before dinner to be able to spend with the family, or maybe do some personal thing like, watch a YouTube video or something. Then dinner time, usually I'll hang out with the family for an hour or two after dinner, and then ideally Baby Deathblade goes to sleep at around 9:30, maybe 10. Then I'll come back to edit the chapter for the evening for me, post it on Wuxia World, and then I get all the chapters ready for the following day to release here on Patreon. Because on Patreon you can schedule a release for a certain time. Occasionally, over the past few weeks, I've messed up something here or there, like I've not released something, or even just this morning I released the Conclave chapters as Elder chapters or something. That's because I tend to do it late at night. The reason I started doing it that way is because originally I would wake up and I would include the Patreon chapters in my morning schedule, but that little bit of extra time I found was starting to kind of have like a snowball effect through the rest of the day. And so I started doing it late at night, scheduling it for 8 o'clock. That way I don't have to worry about it in the morning. Of course, occasionally I do make a mistake with that. I apologize. I try not to. It depends. The earlier I get those chapters set up, the less likely there is to be a mistake. Last night, it was like the last thing I did before going to sleep at like something like 11:30 or 12, and I was like really wiped out, and so I kind of made a little bit of a mistake. And so then the rest of the week is pretty much the same sort of thing, except that when I'm translating I Shall Seal the Heavens, I can go a little bit faster. At this point in the story, the writing is a little bit easier to translate, plus I'm more familiar with the story. So usually, I get up at around 8:30 or so, eat breakfast, take a shower, post chapter, check social media, start translating at around 10 to 11, 10:30 usually. And if I'm doing I Shall Seal the Heavens, if I'm on a roll, if I'm really focused and paying attention, I can sometimes finish 2 chapters before lunchtime. It's not, again, this is the ideal world where I'm not distracted and stuff. And then after lunch, starting at around 1 or something like that, I'll head into the final 2 chapters of the day. And, if I'm lucky, I can finish by like 3:30 or 4. And then have an hour or two to do something else. I have a lot of other projects I'm working on, like there's the contest for I Shall Seal the Heavens. I'm working on some content for that. And then there's other things that I'm working on. And then the evening routine is the same, with spending some time with the family, then having dinner, then coming back to post the Usha World chapters and get ready the chapters for the following morning on Patreon. That's how it goes through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, basically. The weekends, Saturday is supposed to be family day with my podcast thrown in. At some point I recorded the podcast. I do have a chapter to release in the morning and the evening on Wuxia World, and I also have to get chapters ready for Patreon since I release chapters 7 days a week. And then in addition, so like I said, it's family day. We tend to do something usually fun, take little baby Deathblade to the mall to play in the playground, go swimming, go to the park, something like that. And then in addition, I have my own personal project, The Legends of Ogre Gate. And that usually is when I try to write it on Saturday. I'm supposed to do 2 chapters a week, and I've come to find that writing is a lot harder than translating, especially when you're writing based on the mythology of somebody else's game universe. It's turning out to be a lot harder than I had anticipated. Because of that, I'm almost always behind on Legends of Ogre Gate. This week I'm 2.5 chapters behind. Baby Deathblade's taking a nap. I'm hoping to bust out some Legends of Ogre Gate chapters on my off time here. Today, incidentally, instead of doing something fun, we actually went and bought an exercise machine. Now, I know, don't laugh, because everybody's like, you buy the exercise machine, you use it once, and then never use it. I swear to God, I'm going to be using it. You might not be able to tell, but I've actually gained a lot of weight since, in fact, there would be no way for you to tell, because you never saw me before Baby Deathblade was born. Before Baby Deathblade was born, in maybe about the year or so before that, me and Madame Deathblade both had gym memberships, and we got a trainer, and we were like working out all the time, and I looked way less fat than I do now. So I want to like get rid of at least hopefully a little bit of that before I go back to America to visit for the first time. Something very interesting that I realized as I was thinking about this today is back in the day when I was working out at the gym regularly, I distinctly remember reading Stellar Transformations on my cell phone, the English translation. I was really into it at that time, and that of course was around the same time that Ren started doing Coiling Dragon, and I was translating probably Dragon King with 7 stars, or maybe Kung Fu by Giddens Ko, but definitely not I Shall Seal the Heavens. I was just a fan of Xianxia with Stellar Transformation. So that tells you how long ago it was that I was actually working out at the gym. Now I don't have any time to do that kind of thing, as you can kind of imagine from the schedule I just described. So today on our family day, we went and bought an exercise machine, and hopefully starting tomorrow when it gets delivered, I'm going to add a 20 or 30 minute workout in there somewhere. Bought some weights and stuff too, and hopefully I can get a little bit more fit. Ever since I completely stopped going to my other job, I basically just sit here all day, every day, and I can feel myself gaining weight. The last thing I didn't mention is Sunday. I still go into that other company on Sunday, my old company. I have one class that I teach, and then I do some administrative work, and I manage the foreign teachers and observe their classes and give them, evaluations and interview foreign teachers and design lesson plans and things like that. That's my Sunday, and that Sunday will last until sometime early next year probably. Once that Sunday gets cleared up, I'll either have another family day to spend, or I might throw in a little bit of translation work in there. By that time, I'll be focusing completely on A Will Eternal. So essentially, to recap, at the moment, I'm pretty busy. I basically wake up 8 o'clock, and other than my breakfast and lunch break, and maybe an hour or two in there specifically to spend with Baby Deathblade and Madame Deathblade, I pretty much work all the way until about 10:30 or 11 at night. By the time I get the Wuxia World chapter posted and the Patreon chapters ready to go, I don't have much time to do very much. I don't read anymore, don't play computer games, don't watch TV shows or movies. I'm just too busy. Saturday I do have family time, so that's fun. Sunday I work all day at the other company and secretly throw in some, Wuxia World translation stuff, in little bits and pieces when I have a chance at the other job. And so, yeah, I'm pretty busy, pretty tired. Once it comes to later this year, when I finish I Shall Seal the Heavens and move on to A Will Eternal and focus completely on that, I'm probably going to sort of reevaluate the scheduling and try to figure out a way to have a little bit more spare time, because right now I don't really have much spare time or spare energy. I'm pretty much full up everywhere. So that's my schedule every week. And the thing is, as I mentioned, that's the ideal schedule. Unfortunately, the ideal schedule doesn't always happen. For example, baby Deathblade sometimes doesn't sleep well, and he'll come in, he'll wake us up in the middle of the night, or he'll wake up really early, and one of us has to take care of him. Usually what happens is, if he wakes up early, either I take care of him and let Madame Deathblade sleep, and then when she wakes up, hand him over to her, and then I start translating and just drink a bunch of extra coffee. Or the alternative is, I sleep a little bit and she takes care of him. But then what almost always happens is, after I finally wake up and get ready to start working, she, having gotten up early, is like super tired and needs to take a nap. So then I take over baby Deathblade, and then sometimes I don't even get to start translating until 11 or maybe after lunch, depending on how things work out. There are days, especially recently when he was sick and stuff, where I didn't finish my quota before dinner, so I had to translate after dinner, and then I finished translating. Instead of finish translating at like 3 or 4, I finish at like 8 or something like that. And then that pushes all the other activities later and later, which I really don't like, but I don't have any alternative there. I have promised. Well, I mean, I guess I haven't promised, but I have the custom of doing 2 chapters per day of I Shall Seal the Heavens, and then the other stuff. I don't want to cut down on that. And I just don't think it's fair to you guys, the audience, who's waiting for the next chapter. I'm not going to cut down on the chapter unless absolutely necessary. I do have the stockpile. As you might remember, originally the stockpile was there so that I could draw on it in case I got sick or something. But right now, since there's people of the patriarch level who are expecting chapters there, I kind of don't really view that as my stockpile anymore, because I don't think it's fair to take the chapters away from the patriarch level just because I, got tired in the morning or something like that. So for the time being, it's 3 chapters of A Will Eternal on Monday. Then I do 4 chapters of I Shall Seal the Heavens on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I do 2 on Friday, and then use the rest of the time to handle some of the other projects that are going on with the contests and stuff. There's, of course, little things here and there that I haven't mentioned, like maintaining the table of contents. I have a big old list of changes that need to be made. For those of you who are in the patriarch level, if you go into the editing drive, you may have noticed this, I'm not sure, but at the very end, there's a document called To Do, and then there's a partial list of a lot of things I want to go back and change to the translation before the final version comes out. Okay, I'm going a little bit long on time here, so that'll be it for today. Thanks for tuning in, and if you have any requests or things you'd like me to talk about, or any questions, concerns you have, let me know. I'd be happy to address them in the podcast. And I do have a couple interesting topics that I really want to talk about over the next couple weeks. And then, of course, we'll have baby Deathblade on as well. One thing I promised was to have Madame Deathblade on to introduce herself. She's like nervous about it, and she's like, what would I say? I don't even know what I would say. I'm going to try to convince her to come on so that you guys can meet her as well. All right, that's it for now. Take care, and I'll see you next week.